this aspires global expansion. Some have abundant capital, but not a right project to invest. And somewhere, individual investors, corporate investment firms, lenders, venture capital firms, private equity firms, mentors, incubators, brokers. We help you to make a connections and clinch the deal.
Hi everyone, this is Sonali. Thank you all for carving out some time for attending today's webinar on the episode 23 of the Business X Learning Series, Invest, Scale, Value and Exit. To all the attendees out there, please type in any questions you might have in the Q&A section and we'll try to answer as many as possible at the end of the session. I would now like to welcome our speaker, Mr. Gaurav Maurya, Chairman and Founder of the Franchise India Group. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Sonali, and welcome, friends, and welcome to another edition with Business X, which is an arm of Franchise India Group, where we talk about investing, especially in the startup space, and also helping companies to exit from their current business. So today we are going to talk about, out of the 4 topics which we take every time, we rotate the topics. We talk about investment, we talk about how to value businesses, how to scale your businesses, and how to find exit. Today we will want to talk about the scale part of it. And we get a lot of companies, especially the early stage companies, and they really talk about scale. And today I'm going to talk about a very definite thing in terms of what is the right timing for scale and what you need to be ready before you even start thinking scale. Now, scale is an important part of any organization journey. There has to be a time where you need to, you feel that you're ready and you don't want to lose that market share and you want to go fast enough in the market and go and scale that. I just finished a meeting with a company which was an EV player. They're a logistic company, but in electric vehicle logistic business. Very clearly, a lot is going on that. I think at least about 100 odd startups I would have actually interacted myself. And almost everybody is thinking about, should I scale now? Now, you know that there is a conventional technology which is doing the fulfillment. You still have the same, tempos which are out there, which are doing the servicing from a consumer viewpoint. Why would a consumer like to see this change? Why would a logistic company would like to see this change? Why would a small retailer like to see this change? Why this change is compulsory? Why we all know that this industry is moving to EV, but is there a compelling reason, and what is a compelling reason? Now there is a lot of discomfort because their infrastructure is not ready, the charging stations are not ready. But in a conventional technology, you have petrol pumps, diesel pumps, and all these are available all over in the city. So from a logistic player viewpoint, it looks like that I'm taking a big call for whom, unless and until there is a compelling reason and their compelling value creation needs to be done. But OEM is thinking, when Mahindra is thinking, when other companies are thinking, they are listed companies. They're thinking because they need to really see this change and shift, and they know the value of the organization would significantly change. Look at Tesla, what has happened. But when a startup is really thinking about doing and scaling, it needs to really think through that what is compelling reason for that. So some of the reasons you need to really ask yourself before you even start scaling your business is that, are you ready to scale? Which is very important and very honest answer you need to talk. Is the market ready for that kind of scalability? The product you have created or service you've done is come to that maturity level that you can really go out and scale. Are you still in the middle of developing the product and you're thinking scale? Then it is a wrong idea. Your organizational capacity is ready, which is going to be my topic for today. Because I personally feel that it's not really about the product, it's not about the service, it's not about the money you raise, it's not about how market really reacts. It's most of the times how you're organizationally ready to scale that. And we'll talk about this. And also, what is your financial forecast? At what levels you need capital and how this capital is provisioned for you and so forth. These are very important aspects. You need to really ask honestly to yourself and say, where am I on the 0 to 10 from a readiness in terms of going out and scaling my business? Second, is your clear roadmap ready for scale? Because scale is not just about an ideation of going on a larger market share, larger top line, better performance in the business and so forth. It has to have a very definite month-on-month guideline set for yourself. And that guidelines has to be much deeper rooted. Like I run a large franchise organization. To me, most of the companies which come in franchising, their scale story is about number of units they want to do. Most of them would come and say, I wanted to open up 100 restaurants. Now that's a good skills answer. But I personally feel that that has no meaning to me. What kind of customers you really want to service, how many customers you want to do that. And that would be really the value you build. How many customers really are engaged with you? How many are coming and repeating themselves? How many people are actually spending a certain amount of wallet share with you? What is your subscriber telling you, and so on and so forth. So unless and until you really think through that first as a structure, and then break down into things which you need to do, and then answers would come in just by units, would not give you any larger answer. Another area is that what are the clear indicators telling you? Where is the indicators telling you that you need to scale now? What has happened in the last 2 quarters with you, which tells you that you are ready? Or any kind of signals you're seeing, which can be policy change, structure, market dynamics, global practices, anything which is telling you that there are some strong indicators which you can measure actually and say that this is a time for me to scale. Because scale can be very risky. Most of the businesses failed in the last 5 years, not because they didn't get the scale, but they were not able to control that scale. And actually, mature businesses in older times used to say, you have to really go as far as you can control. पैर उतने फैलाओ जितनी चद्दर हो, या ऐसा कुछ people used to say. And they used to say this because they used to always say that scale is easy, but if you're not able to manage that scale, it can be a difficult animal to really hang around. Another thing which you need to do buying, which I think is your internal and external stakeholders. They need to do a strong buying with you, that whatever your business plan for scale is, they are in touch with that. So that's very, very important. You need to really see through that your internal and external stakeholders are completely bought into your idea of scale, because they are going to be people who would stand by you over the time when you're doing the scale. And when the entrepreneur is on the scale ride, he doesn't see anything else. He's just running for that scale. I personally feel it's a great time to think scale, because we are the lowest of the chip, and we would go, and a lot of industries would go, hockey size, stay shape growth. You would just see another 3 to 4 years of continuous growth on that. It's a good if you have a really strong foundation already there. If you're not too much weakened by this whole COVID, which has happened, and you still see the solid stories there. I was just with another restaurant chain, and I told him that, look, and he was not too sure. He has restaurants that are coming in, great legacy, great structure, and he was not so sure that should I do it. I said, this is a perfect time. Why? Because every marginal player is out of the window. People who were not able to control, or they were just in the fence, they would never be able to come back. So credible players who were solid at this moment would go very big. Almost every time adversity has happened, if you really see in 2008, the companies which got really damaged were these hospitality companies and so on and so forth, and all that had happened. Same thing happened in 9/11 when everything got shut. Marriott's were the really bad time affected. But if you see the Marriott's journey from there, how they became the largest hotel chain in the world, is because every time this happened, they were always sitting on a lot of loads of cash. And they became opportunists, and they started venting out and bought over brands, bought over businesses, and so on and so forth. And then they did a very strong turnaround, build that ride, whatever they could used to get. And anytime the adversity would again come in, they would be ready for it. I'm very, very sure some of these organizations would go very, very big in diving. Out of this adversity, when they would come out, they would even more scale up. And this is what we saw. Even solid companies like Reliance Industries and other companies are building a huge amount of chest, because they know they're going to be on a very, very strong scale story. So it's a good timing, but you need to see your health of your organization. Where is your health being done that? So let's talk about today's particular topic. And if I have to really advise a early stage company, and which is done well, it might be in product or a service, and now ready to scale. Product is compelling, market is looking good. While I think you can place your first 2 quarters a little bit softly and then go full blown. And if you really want to do that, one of the most important thing I would like to see in that organization is what I call the organizational design to really support that scale. Now, organizational designs have changed significantly in last few years. Earlier, it was very conventional departmentalization of organizations. While you can still call them names, sales, marketing, this and that, whatever. But the larger piece of organization flow, I think, would flow into the 4 blocks, which you need to really set as a foundation. And these 4 are connected blocks There are the quadrants of any organization. The first two would sit on the top, and the next two would sit on top, sit on the bottom. They're between what I call ideation to great execution and achieving goals, which is then one grid of spectrum. And second is driving from performance to building legacy. So that's how the grid is really being structured. So these are four very strong elements. And I would say that you need to have four top officers of your organizations, or even founding members can really divide themselves and say, we are part of these four blocks and we own those blocks. While they connect with each other, they talk to each other, they sync with each other, they challenge each other as a blocks, but they are very strong blocks. The first block to me is creativity. Creativity is very important because it is an engine in your organization, which actually on one side inspires and second side challenges. Inspires people to think fresh, think what they need to do, how do they develop new processes, how they structure new things in the organization. Also, not only inspire, because sometimes your organizations inspire at the top, right? Because they are the people who would have your core management team and also the leadership team. They get really inspired. But what happens to the person at the last mile? There's a guy who really looks after your warehousing, somebody who's working at the last mile. He's not inspired with the same thought. And it's very difficult. And a lot of discussions have been happened on that, but organizations are not designed like that. They don't design like that. There isn't that. And sometimes there is a gap in terms of the thinking level and how the thinking process needs to be driven. And unless and until it's very holistically inspiring everybody, not only inside your organization, but outside your organization, that everybody is so bloody inspired by the larger goal sheet you set for yourself, the organization. This will not really create. So this is all about culture, and culture to really create the organization which breeds new ideations, continuously think through that, how can I do things better? That's one part of inspiration. Challenging is challenges, because almost everything, whatever is done in the way it is done, has to be challenged. Again, the restaurant company I met, why it's so fresh in my mind, and he told me one thing. He says, look, I've been always telling my teams that why these global QSR chains are so efficient. They run with 10, 12 people and they do more sales. They actually deliver more customers. And we at our level, we need 3 times more team and we deliver actually 1/3 of the customers. Why would this be a problem? And every time he's got an answer from somebody, he says, look, our food is different. Now, this cannot be an argument. This cannot be an argument. I think McDonald's looks like an American food where people like burgers, but actually it's not. It created its own category, and it created something which was good. It was fast, it was structured, and that's how they delivered the product. So fundamentally, I think nobody really wants to challenge this. Why nobody in India ever challenged that there would be a, so to say, Indian QSR, which would run by a leaner staff and leaner people, and we will still deliver great product, great structure. We give up to the convention. We just follow the path which everybody else has followed, and probably get the second or third level results, continue to get that. And that's why I always say that why the food which Indians love is like a biryani or a food, and I think we don't have even a chain which has 100 units. And we have companies which are coming from outside and they're doing IPOs. The Domino's did IPO, Burger King did IPO, and these are all companies are the food which is not in the first 3 or 4 or 5 favorite foods for so to say Indians, because the business model is working for them and they are able to scale fast, while these companies are not able to scale because they have a lot of challenges in that. So challenge is also about really challenging every single process, system, and the way things are done. Unless and until we really go out and really do these two things, inspire and challenge everything, your department of creativity would never work. And also, I think, as I said, you need to inspire almost every stakeholder. You cannot be a lone inventor or a lone thinker. You need to really have everybody as an entire organization thinking through. Another thing which is very important is that you need to really think through that scale comes with a lot of challenge. I've seen, like in service businesses, I've seen the consistency is the biggest challenge. Service businesses has never been a problem of demand generation and things of that nature, but consistency breaks. If I was a dry cleaning company, my service levels went down. I was a food business, I went down. I was any other business. When I scaled, I was not able to give that. These all aggregators of laundry came in. Their consistency was not there. They were not able to really handle the whole customer experience, so to say. They were able to scale that. They got numbers in there because they were driving a lot of demand side from technology and things like that. But their delivery cycle and the consistency really failed. How do you really address the real problem? Sometimes scale is just not doing it big. It's all about doing it consistent. It's very, very important to do that. In a product side, I think change cycles are becoming very important, because how do you really change that, and becomes very, very challenging. And also new markets, new environments also become a very important aspect. So how do you really create this creativity as one big unit of your entire thing? And you should have somebody as a chief creative officer of your company, which continues to think on critical thinking and also innovation. And how this is married to even the performance of the business is very, very important. The next block to me is objectivity, which actually creativity and objectivity sit next to each other. If this creativity is not completely married to objectivity, the business would go wrong. And if you just run objectivity without creativity, also it fails. So objectivity is really about driving what I call absolute performance. How do you run performance? But objectivity is also coming not from your personal considerations, your own viewpoint on things. And this is what has been the problem, where we are not listening. We don't understand business intelligence. What is business telling us? What is business telling us? What are numbers telling us? What are micro numbers telling us? Where are we going wrong? Are we going wrong in our margins reducing? While people are using, but they don't want to pay us more. Our margins are shrinking. So what do we do to improve our margins? How do we scale up? Most of the times you go down the ladder. I always say that this idea you don't need in the boardroom. If most of the times when people come in the boardroom and say, how can I double my market share? And somebody say, can we drop the price? Now, this is no idea. This is somebody is giving you what is easy to do. And this is what almost everybody did. Every time you want to take a bigger share, like all these Zomato, Swiggy's, why they're struggling? Because answer was clearly about creating a greed. Now they cannot sustain that greed. They've started giving people 1 + 1, 1 + this, discounting on a heavy structure. Now this ruined the restaurant, this ruined Swiggy and Zomato. None is doing it. Nobody really thought that why can't we go and deliver something more so that our margins really improve? What is the data telling us? Are people only interested to buy cheap? Answer is no. People want better things, and that's where I think good companies, great organizations like Apple and other companies have always done well, because they have always sustained and improved their margin. Every single second step is every single process in your system and organization has to be developed with a strong test and measure. Everything has to be tested, everything has to be measured. If it doesn't fit into this, then there has to be some kind of correction. You need to also set strong performance benchmarks, very, very strong performance. You need to sweat out every single asset in your organization. Very, very important. You cannot take, if it is not like these days, what happened in this COVID, everybody is on an asset restructuring. Almost every company is on asset restructuring. They're all thinking how they can really change the dynamics of their asset deployed. And everybody has really one answer to tell me, that we never thought we can do this much better, much more efficiently. Actually, this opportunity is always there. Sometimes you're forced on that opportunity. Sometimes you consciously go on that entirely. What is your correction? Another thing which I've seen, if you go on a wrong path, maybe you did a wrong acquisition, maybe you did wrong, vertical or something like that, and you try to really adjust it, fix it, and that thing, and you actually kill the core business. And this is what I would give example of. Oyo did wrong acquisitions, and they started feeding those acquisitions with good money, and that good money would never be able to really do that. So one has to be very conscious. Just because of scale, you're not going on the wrong path. And if you have, because you cannot sometimes every time predict that, you need to have a definite at and say, if it doesn't work beyond this, pull the plug. If you delay it too long, even the largest of the organization, look at Anil Ambani Group. It's not that they are not a great group. They're very, very good. They've done things in a certain speed, which I think should be a book or a case study for Harvard. If you really go deep down and see the group when they formed and what verticals they went, and almost every vertical they became a market leader. Somebody who was not in entertainment became the largest entertainment company, not in infrastructure became the largest infrastructure company, not in this. Every smallest thing which they did, they were able to scale every business to a certain extent, because he was a very ambitious entrepreneur. But 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different steps, was not able to correlate, and they went too far on that. And that really put the group down. So one has to really think through that. How do you really correct it very, very fast? Where is correction coming in? Not taking I think is foolishness. You need to take challenges and you need to take risk. But how do you really not delay that risk and come out of it is very, very important. And every single process in your system has to have a process owner to drive extreme objectivity. And these all people need to meet weekly to see how they're connecting the dots. And this is a very, very important part of the objectivity. The third piece block to me is communication. And communication is very important. And how the communication, how you're communicating to the world, what you stand for, what is in that. And sometimes you have a great product or a service, but you're extremely bad in communication. You don't even go out and tell what you stand for. And that's something which is to change. Now, the world has become very different. People are communicating very differently, different platforms. You hear things. We've actually forgotten where we get information now. You actually, sometime I in the evening, I'm telling myself I read something, but I don't know where I read it. I'm just being given and blasted on various levels of information which is coming through. It's no more one part of the mediums. Can be multiple mediums, different people. It can be an individual communicating to me, a group, or this, or any other channel which needs to be done. So this is not a problem. Reach is not so much of a problem anymore. While still the marketeers are thinking of creating reach, they're trying to use smarter tools and things of that nature. That is no brainer. I mean, if you hire a 35,000 rupees, a young guy who's just out of college can also know what is going on, because he's also similarly flowing through, and he has much better ability to understand new technology, use influencers, use that, whatever you want to do, that's easy. What is the difficult part is go back and ask yourself, what is what you want to really do and communicate, and how consistent you are. So which means your messaging and your consistency are the two important things of your communication work. If you continue to think through that, how my messaging is sharp enough and clear and reaching out to the target group I want to reach out, and I'm extremely consistent in doing it, then only this would really create a value. So communication is another very important aspect of a part. And the fourth block, which as an entrepreneur, you always have to hold it for yourself. You cannot delegate this part, is the purpose. What was the purpose of when you started the business? What was the larger purpose? What was the goal which you set for it? And purpose furtherly is divided into three parts. For stakeholders, which are shareholders, profits. End of the day, they want to really see when the profits are going to come and why are the big profits are going to come. And scale story is all about really creating substantial profits, because you're not deploying proportionately same level of resources. So you are making the organization extremely profitable. Second is your stakeholders. Your stakeholders are your subscribers also. How subscribers are feeling that value and getting loyal to you. I mean, they are doing, and they're becoming more subscribers, and they're becoming doing a purchase. And third is what I call legacy. For young companies, this is a little bit too big a word, and you should not too early start thinking legacy. And sometimes you try to be, it doesn't really reflect, because you are not ready to really contribute society, not contribute on social responsibility and a lot of other things. But eventually, yes, there would be a purpose for that entire thing. So good companies really draw a purpose and continue to think through that. What is my shareholder asking? What is my buyer asking? My consumer is asking, and what is my legacy for the organization? So between these four pieces, you build the organization. You build the organization on creativity. You build the organization of building objectivity, communication, and larger purpose. If you are able to put the foundation right, check the market conditions, see your financial ability and appetite at this moment, do a test and measure, and then you're ready for scale. And that's what I would advise. But this is a good time. This is a good time to really draw your 2021 plan and think about what is your next scale strategy. And take your stakeholders, get them together, think through together, and build a stronger, deeper plan. Write it off the plan, continue to monitor your plan, how it is going, and the results would be great. So this was our topic for today. Hope I was able to share a few ideas with you. Purpose of these communications is that even if you stay one idea with you, that's good enough. And this is a series we do every Saturday. We talk about half an hour. And over to you, Sonali, if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer.
Sure. Thank you so much for another insightful session, Gaurav sir. It was wonderful as always. Yes, we do have a few questions lined up with us. The first question I would like to take up is, do you believe that marketing fundamentals are still the same as they were a couple of years ago? It's just that the mediums have changed. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so the only change which has happened in the marketing, which I see, is it's moved from propaganda marketing to engagement, and that's something which is a very big piece. And also, so the consumer has elevated itself, uh, and in any developing, especially developed economies, this is exactly what is going to happen. You cannot go and tell me, or I go to Sonali and say, Sonali, you have to buy this. This is the best thing for you. And I think no more she wants to do that. She's quite aware what she knows, what she wants, and then she will go and search for it. And then if you are able to engage her, because she's already searching about it, right? See, she's conscious about better drinking water. Now she will always search about those things, and if I'm able to engage that and engage with credibility, consistency, and greater communication design, aesthetics, what I call, then this would be the entire thing. Rest everything is not changed. Mediums, I'm not too really worried at this stage. I feel that it's more to do with intelligence. A lot of people are trying to do a lot, where they are struggling, suffering, their cost of acquisition is going high, their marketing budgets are going high. But the truth is that they are spending very little time to understand who they want to communicate, what messaging they want to communicate, and how they can be consistent.
Absolutely. The next question is, what is the most efficient way to scale up a startup as per you, specifically to increase market scale?
It depends on where you are and how you want to scale, what is the business you have. And one of the areas, which is what we did in earlier episodes, is thinking difference between a growth and scale. Scale companies are companies which don't really proportionately deploy their resources in the same manner, like technology companies, where you once you have that, it starts multiplying. People refer you, people put the content. Now today, I mean, I get surprised by the companies like Subway, this Facebook and other companies, because you actually doing all that work for them. They just put a platform, you create the content, put the content, you build the viewership for them. Everything is done by the audience itself. They just and on the other side, they're collecting almost everything about you. Almost everything about you. You don't know how powerful these organizations are going to be, because the way they are going out and collecting almost everything you own. Every information, every intelligence, every data point, every holiday you had, every function you did, and just all is going with them. So these are scale companies. This is what scale is all about. So think over how your business can continue to multiply without you putting even inertia on this, and it creates self inertia, and it creates by its own piece. Otherwise, it always need inertia. It will always need that push. It will always need entire thing. If you take it for 3 months and then again take a push, how the business would start multiplying by itself. And that to me is a smart scale strategy.
Very rightfully said, sir. The next question I would like to take up is, how to equip people who hold the key to my company's scalability. I do not want to over pressurize them, but at the same time, make them realize their key responsibilities without discouraging them.
So I missed the first point. Who the company's employees you're talking about?
Yeah. How to equip people who hold the key to my company's scalability.
Okay, hold the key, equip people, which means that your team members and your vendors, suppliers, anybody who is stakeholder in your entire thing. So again, you have to make them part of the collective vision and collective results. Collective vision and collective results are very important. Otherwise, it will never go through. If you go and tell you in your office and company and say, look, I'm building up this very big and this is our entire thing, but they say, what is there for us? Why would we put in more hours and more effort and put thinking, and unless and until you make them somewhere part of this whole story. And that's something which is very important, and it's just not by saying, it's by practice. If you need to practice small things, and also peer-to-peer examples. If people think that, oh, before me this guy really got to this level and he's running as a So then they like that story. People don't really buy into sometimes founders. It looks like they buy into founders or entrepreneurs or business owners. Actually, no, they buy into peer-to-peer. If I'm sitting there and I see my other person who's joined just 6 months before, and he's grown, he's done bigger things, then I want to do that. I want to be also part of it. So people like that story more than anything. So how do you really invest into that? How do you create infectious environment where things really start multiplying? Otherwise, you'll always have a block.
The next question is specific to the person's business. He says, with so much e-commerce, what is the scope for brick and mortar retailing? Should one invest in it?
Yeah. I still strongly believe on brick and mortar retail. And not only me, but worldwide. I mean, IKEA has opened up a store in Bombay, big format. Again, I genuinely feel that environments are going to stay. How these environments are going to change is anybody's guess. But we would like to be in environments. We always would like things around us. And this world was always built, and we always like to build as humans and want to see things around us. Well, I think brick and mortar, smarter brick and mortar would run. Specialty brick and mortar would run. A lot of hyper-local, last-mile convenience, O2O strategies, online to offline integration would run. All that would happen. And this is what we've been talking about last 15 years. Actually, nothing has changed. And no disruption I've seen who can come and say brick and mortar would be able to not be able to do that. So that I've neither seen or not seen anybody really challenging that fact. And almost all companies in past, like I'm handling Grofers stores now, Kriana stores. So now I question myself why they want to do Kriana stores when they actually was challenging Kriana stores. Now they're empowering Kriana stores. They were rather creating their own stores everywhere. So it's a fundamental that eventually you need to reach out to consumer, and consumer is everywhere. And wherever they would go, you have to be part of it. So that's how this really runs.
Right. The next question we have is, how can businesses bringing new concepts for the people thinking about the future market their concepts?
Yeah, so we always build businesses or products which are for future. It has to be problem solving. It has to have a very genuine problem solving and a stronger desire for a consumer to shift. Sometimes you are solving a problem, but there is no real rush to shift. Like e-vehicle. If you really see a vehicle, this is something new. No, 15 years back, Anand Mahindra 20 years back actually bought into a e-vehicle company. LED. It was invented by Philips in early 90s. Why technology took 30 years to implement? It's never about innovation alone. It's also about the reason why this would shift. Like generic medicine, we all knew generic medicine, but there was not a policy in the government to say doctors have to now write along with the medicine they're subscribing a generic code on that, which means that they know what is a generic option of this. Now this is being done by MCI now. So now a patient can really go to a chemist and say, look, I don't want an expensive one. I want a alternative generic product. Now these are very clearly the timings of entire thing. So when we started working on generic medicine, it was 4.5 years back, and I clearly saw that this industry would go into. I think it's still not really reached out. We've done about 1,000 stores and now, but I feel that India would be nothing less than 100,000 chemist shops which are doing generic medicine. So it's going to go big time. But now, why now? It's just about these finer changes. So you need to really see that while your innovation which you're doing is great, it might be solving some problem. It has to be a solid problem you're trying to solve. But is there also an urgency for somebody to really shift? And that's something which is the argument here. And if you get these two things together and say, oh, clearly I see that this is a real problem solving, and I also know that people would shift like no time. They just need it. They were waiting for it. So then I think you have perfect timing.
Right. So I would just take up the last two questions for this session. One question is, we are a 3 years old company in Bangalore and we are in the initial stages of development of our business. We are planning to expand our business to other cities like Chennai or Hyderabad. Is it the right strategy to start now or should we wait for some more years? Please advise.
So I'm a high growth guy. Sometimes it's a little bit too much of infectious, but include not only to my clients, but include to me. So I always say that grow, and growth comes from only three things. There's no fourth idea. One is new markets, new products, and new channel. You can only grow by these three things. There is no fourth idea. So every time continue to see what can I create a new product which can give me growth, what can a new market I can go which can go growth, and what is the new channel I can use to sell my product. So, but now I am not in a position to really sell you that getting into a new market would ask for what gestation, control, capability to handle all that. I'm not able to answer because I have no visibility of your business. But if I feel that this is in under control, then what are you waiting for? You should go new markets, and that's something which should really create a growth for you.
Absolutely, sir. And now the last question for this session. The question is, can we have one vision statement that caters to the shareholders' interest, the stakeholders' interest, as well as the legacy?
So very difficult to make a one vision statement on that, but I think businesses with purpose would always have these three things important. They would obviously start with a shareholder, because shareholder needs to see sustainability of organization and a larger value creation. And then cares equally. We have to hand in hand care about your subscribers, people who buy from you, consume from you, and so on and so forth. They make you big, which needs to be done. And third is what you leave behind. What is the organization you are building and things like that. One of the case studies, which were when one of the statements Coca-Cola General chairman made in an AGM, he says, if I lost all my bottling plants, all my trucks, all my infrastructure, and I can still build it in no time, because the world would back me up. But if I lost my brand, I lost everything. So that's also very important sometimes, that the brand is also another very important stakeholder in structure, that how you really proprietary strongly handle for guard your brand, what you're creating. So think through it. Scale is a good, very, very important strategy to really look at it. It's also timing. It's fun. It is worth riding it. It's worth people always. I've seen so many industrialists, so many business owners. I'm fortunate that I had opportunity to work with 8,000 odd brands, decision makers, CEOs, legacy businesses, generational industrialists. And when I sit with them over a drink or something, they have these 3, 4, 5 years where they did something very big. The rest, they were custodians. They were custodians of managing one time, but there were time where they were creating something very big. So if you are on the stage and you just ready to put that paddle on the entire structure, then best wishes and hope your scale story is great.
Thank you so much, Gaurav sir, for another wonderful session and for very patiently answering all our questions like always. It was absolutely wonderful having you. Anything you would like to say in the end?
Oh, thank you. I've said enough, and people cannot tolerate me beyond that. So it's 40 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I would just request you to type in your email ID as well for all our attendees if they wish to contact you.
And wish to contact me, and also if you want to contact Sonali for any of your requirement on fundraise, listing your company, for even if you want to look at an investor, or if you want to exit, you can reach out to Sonali, and she has a wonderful team at BusinessX, and they would be able to help you out and help you out in your. And sometimes if you want to just make some connections and you want to really reach out to some private equity or some angel fund, and you want to really ask to push you there, so we'll be more than happy to do that. Our cause is for small businesses, early stage companies, and promising entrepreneurs to to show them the way of growth and help them scale their businesses. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our attendees for your time. We really hope we were able to add some value to your lives through this session. And please join us next Saturday. As Gaurav sir said, it's a weekly session every Saturday at 3 o'clock. The next time we'll be discussing about bringing value in your businesses. So please don't forget to join us then. And thank you so much. Thank you, sir.